Forza Horizon 3 Hot Wheels is one of the best purchases I've made all year. In fact, Forza Horizon 3 in general is such an effortlessly enjoyable game, it's really rather remarkable. For as much as I enjoy the stressful gameplay of Rainbow Six Siege, the psychological storytelling of Hellblade, or the demanding focus of a simulator, Horizon's pick-up-and-play design is infectious. There's no impending narrative or heartbreaking defeats, just exploring a simplistic open area, falling into a routine of events, tasks, and extras, earning money, bonuses, and cars along the way. Something to put on when you want an engaging experience that isn't so taxing you can't kick back with a buddy and chill. Though recently another game has taken some attention away, and at points to much frustration, because it's Destiny 2. Upon starting, I found it to be a neutered FPS lootathon with nothing to do but explore simplistic open areas, falling into a routine of events, tasks, and extras, earning money, bonuses, and gear along the... Wait a minute. This confused me. I hadn't played Destiny since its launch, so my frustration didn't lie within its shaders, raids, loot structure, or any of the other problems brought up within the game's community. It's seemingly in these aspects that kept me hooked into Horizon. Why? Well, I believe it's connected not to the games themselves, but the genres they're attached to. For context, racing games have a history that's almost as long as gaming itself. People always had a love for the automobile, so it's no surprise it'd be made digitally. And with its inception, the genre grew rapidly, with its most significant portion being the 1990s, in both arcade and simulation. Sega, Midway, EA, and of course, Nintendo all played a key role in an industry-wide push for over-the-top, easy-to-pick-up-and-play racers in the arcades and home consoles. Sega innovated with open-wheel racing, Midway featured insane tracks, and EA acquired real-world supercars. And that's only scratching the surface, with there also being the PlayStation's grittier titles, Midway's variety amongst Rush, Cruisin', and Hydro Thunder, and Sega's more grounded arcade racers like Daytona, Rally, and Super GT. Though even they dipped their toes into simulation with Ferrari 355 Challenge. Comparing this 1999 release to the innovative games done by Jeff Crammond is indicative of how much took place in this short period of time, not just in graphics. Many of the assists that Forza is praised for today can be traced back to Jeff Crammond's F1 that brought the ideal driving line, brake assists, and suggested gears in 1992. Crammond's sequels combined with Papyrus's work on the Indian NASCAR games brought substantial innovations, including realistic physics, as early as 1996. And the genre's popularity reached new heights with the almighty Gran Turismo. In terms of growth, however, this was the genre's zenith. That's not to say there's been no improvement since Polyphony Digital started. There's been many superb driving games released, and evolution with things like open worlds, online play, and customization. But in terms of functionality and structure, the overwhelming majority of games conform to systems and progression that have been seen for 20 years. Because this is a niche genre with a dedicated and passionate fan base, these games don't aim to revolutionize and strike a new audience. But more importantly, they're not expected to. In the same way comedies don't have the elevated stature of dramas and film, driving games aren't going to be generating the next hype train or big controversy. They're a specialized genre, whereas first-person shooters aren't. The 1990s featured a movement here that was even more rapid than racing. Those who evolved what Maze War started went from experimenting in 1991 to creating arguably the most played computer game in the world only 2 years later. Games like Half-Life revolutionized campaign design with set pieces and commitment to immersion. Halo brought the genre to systems many thought were incapable of properly adopting them. And this evolution only continued to grow through the generations. Shooters have made people laugh, cry, scream, and jump. It's left a profound effect on the industry and players themselves, both dedicated and casual. First-person shooters are popular and acclaimed. Whether you enjoy them or not, there's an expectation attached to the genre as a whole, which brings us back to the start. Destiny 2 and Forza Horizon 3, despite being entirely different games, utilize similar structure, systems, and progression, but left very different initial impressions. Because Forza Horizon 3 is a title advertised as nothing more than it is, in a genre that doesn't aim for anything more, with an audience that isn't expecting something more, whereas Destiny 2 is the opposite. Being advertised as a grand adventure against a galactic threat in a genre that's been as intense and heroic, with a large crowd expecting this based on their creator's track record. But the game's not really about any of this. The positivity I hear from the community surrounding Destiny isn't about pushing the genre forward, telling an epic tale, or seriously competing. It's about friendly rivalries during missions, both helping and mocking friends search for gear, seeing what goal is in reach, and achieving it. Destiny's enjoyment doesn't align with the average shooter, at least not for me. It's got more in common with Forza's spinoff than, say, Call of Duty. This is sort of inevitable when genre labels are technical rather than emotional. The names don't account for tone or type of enjoyment. We only associate first-person shooters with bombastic fun because that's what most of them do, not because any of those words are related. It's similar to what I mentioned in my Prey video. That game potentially sets itself up for being misread when called a first-person shooter, not because of its own motivation, but because of the expectations surrounding the genre it takes place in. And no one's immune to this judgment, including me. Upon separating my desire for Destiny to be the epically engrossing narrative it's advertised as and engaging it with the same mindset I've had with Horizon, Destiny 2 became a much more enjoyable experience. Its ease of control, progression, and structure has a similar quality. There is a conversation to be had about how these things function in different genres. For instance, I have a greater attachment with real-world supercars than fictional guns, but that's a separate topic. And while Destiny may never fully click with my particular taste, its appeal has become much clearer after experiencing its thrills in another title. Games ultimately don't exist in a vacuum. They're in a crowded and competitive market, one with dedicated and passionate fans all over the globe, whether you're in the mainstream or underground space. Your work will be impacted by what you've done before, regardless if its comparisons are fair. And our own biases and preferences can both enhance and derail a game's enjoyment. In this particular case, many of my frustrations didn't lie with what Destiny 2 is, but instead, what it's not. Hello everyone, I just wanted to give a quick update on two things. One, the Patreon series Randomly Mine is now being updated to go up every 2 weeks as opposed to once a month. There was always a week missing in terms of Patreon content in the past, and I felt that I owe you guys more. So now there's always something going on the Patreon once a week between recommendations, Randomly Mine, and Discord hangouts. Secondly, Max Payne 3 will eventually be covered, but it's not the next big project. That instead has to do with a certain box.
Space.